Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 3 and the final part of the Q&As for the day. Let me put my +5 hat of whipping-smithing on and finish this up. Alright, first question. Jason, every time I deadlift, the people in my gym and sometimes the owner tell me to put mats under the weight and lower it slowly so I won't damage the floor and make too much sound. Since this will hurt me, I'm not willing to do that. I'm on your novice program. Should I do something else, or what can I do? All right, brother. Honestly, that's a tough one. What I'm going to recommend, change gyms. Find a gym with a deadlift platform. If you look around, I'm sure you can find an appropriate gym that's set up for you to deadlift properly. They're out there, and I know some people are going to find themselves in situations where they can't find one. That's just the way it is. Some people are going to be in too small of an area that doesn't have a hardcore gym. Now, there are towns with less than 100,000 people in them that still have a hardcore gym set up to deadlift, but not all of them do. If you're in a larger city, any metropolitan area with over 1 million people, I 100% guarantee you can find one if you look hard enough. They're out there. Should not be a problem. But yeah, you're going to have to change gyms to find a gym with an appropriate floor, an appropriate deadlift platform, and do what you can do. Failing that, deadlift at home. If you have a home with a garage or a proper floor and you can build your own deadlift platform and mats, then do that. I consider the deadlift to be such an important exercise, and particularly important exercise to do properly, that if you're serious about getting big and strong, particularly strong, you're going to find a way to do it. And in the past, you guys have seen me deadlifting at home in a garage. When I get another home that has a garage in it, I will most likely be deadlifting at home again on a real high frequency. Probably will happen eventually. So that's really all that you can do about that. You're going to have to find a way to do it. Otherwise, I don't know, just put down matting and try to control it a little bit, but just don't do a slow eccentric in the meantime. Try not to hurt yourself. All right, next question. Has your view on taking vitamin D3 changed at all? Looking for a way to beat improved mood, especially at this time of year in the UK. Thanks. No, my view on vitamin D3 hasn't changed. In fact, I just bought some because it's starting to get darker and colder even in Houston here for the winter time. And so for my girlfriend and I have bought some vitamin D3. 2,000 units for us to take a day. When I lived in the UK, I obviously took it a good chunk of the year because it's darker there, particularly in the winter. So no, my view hasn't changed on it at all. It's one of the very, very few supplements I believe in. It's just that for many people during most times of the year, there's enough fortified in your foods that it's just not that big of an issue. It's not that hard to get enough, and particularly with sunlight. But, you know, again, depending upon your skin tone, how dark it is in the winter where you live, stuff like that, it can still be useful to take. I've got entire videos on it. Yeah, I still recommend vitamin D3 for the right people in the right situation. And for most people, probably useful in the wintertime almost no matter what. No matter what your skin tone is, what environment you live in, unless you're really close to the equator, probably a useful product, a useful supplement to take even in the wintertime for everyone. One of the very few that I think it is. All right, next question. I know compound exercises are better, but why do I feel my muscles more on isolation movements rather than compound movements? All right, very, very simple. This is going to be very, very simple. You feel them more because you're working multiple muscles. Meaning, if someone were to come over and hit you in the toe with a hammer, and it's going to hurt, right? You're going to feel pain. Are you going to feel more pain in that toe if you hit that one and then someone hits another one and another one, so they hit 3 of your different toes? Or you're probably going to feel a different variation in pain, and maybe some of them are going to hurt more than the other. You're not going to notice maybe the one that was hit first as much, so on and so forth. Probably that. In isolation movement, you're only working one muscle. Because you're only working that muscle, you tend to feel it more. You tend to feel it more. However, on a compound movement, you're almost always working at least 3 muscles as a major mover, so you feel it in multiple muscles. Sometimes you feel the muscle that's the weakest link more. Case in point, when I do pendlay rows, you guys have seen in most of my training footage, my Instagram, where you see my back, everything else, my back is pretty big. My back overshadows my arm development. When I do pendlay rows, I actually feel them in my biceps, brachialis and radial brachialis the most. Right through here is where I feel pin leg rows the most. Even though they're pretty strict back exercise, they involve those muscles. I feel them more there because that's my weak link. My arms are a bit weaker. Now, I'm still strong on the pin leg rows. I still get back development from them, but because my back is so much stronger than my arms tend to get a really intense pump doing that exercise. For my back, because it's so strong from doing other exercises, I'm strong from deadlifts, everything else, my back just kind of doesn't really care that much. Is it probably growing from it? Yes. But because proportionately I'm weaker in my arms on that pulling exercise, I tend to feel it there more. So oftentimes what will happen on your compound movements, you'll either feel everything somewhat evenly through them, which will be less than you would feel had you just worked that muscle, for the same reason that if you were to be hit in multiple toes, tapped with a hammer, doesn't even have to be hard enough to break it just to hurt, or several pokes with a pin, some of them are going to hurt more than others, and you're not going to notice any single one of them as much as if you'd only been stuck one time. Because again, multiple stimuli coming in, you're going to feel it less because of the multiple stimuli instead of just the one single one. So that's pretty straightforward. Hopefully that explains that. Hopefully that doesn't, it makes you understand that you're not necessarily working a muscle harder by isolating it versus hitting it with a big compound. You just feel it differently because multiple things got worked. So the feelings get spread around a bit. All right, next question. Hey Jason, other than face pulls, what would be another rear delt exercise you recommend? I had rolled shoulders and have been doing face pulls for 3 months with no real change. Thanks. All right, great question, brother. Face pulls is not the only solution for your rolled shoulders. They're a great rear delt exercise, but if you have really rolled shoulders, when you're standing upright, I don't mean when you're working doing stuff, because some people be like, well, yeah, because I'm working on things. When you're standing upright and doing things, if you have really rolled shoulders, it's because your chest is probably stronger than your lats are. So what I would recommend, and this is really common with a lot of guys who work show muscles, a lot of guys who do a lot of show muscles instead of their go muscles, meaning they work the front of their body more than the back. All right, work the front more than the back. A whole lot of you guys can relate to that. Y'all know that's you out there, especially the younger guys who are training just for looks to get girls. You can tend to get rolled shoulders because your back isn't strong enough. And what you're going to find, that problem, if the face pulls haven't fixed it, then it's not your shoulders causing the problem. It's your total back. So you need to be doing more rowing, more pulling in general, either more rows, more weighted chin-ups, stuff like that. Get stronger on weighted chin-ups, get stronger on barbell rows. And you will find that your problem will most likely go away. All right, next question. Would sumo deadlifts be sufficient as a lower bodybuilder if lack of time doesn't allow to do both deadlifts and squats? If not, what would be the best solution here? I'm not that big of a fan of the sumo deadlift. To be honest, I think for total lower body development, I like the conventional deadlift more. That's just how I feel about it. Sure, the quads do get worked a little more on the sumo, but it's just... it works less total muscles in the body, less back, less posterior chain, everything else. And you're shortening the range of motion. And it's, again, something I don't recommend doing. If you're trying to get total development in anything, intentionally shortening the range of motion further on a different variation of an exercise, probably not the best thing to do. Now, if you're worried about lower body development, remember, you guys see my legs and stuff in my training clips. The only leg exercises I have done for over a year now, since I quit squatting, keep in mind I was squatting over 500 raw on camera, but all I do is conventional deadlift and the push press. That's the entirety of it. It keeps my legs pretty damn big. Just as big as they were when I was squatting over 500 pounds. I don't think my legs have lost any size. So, what about the guys who feel like they don't get enough quad development from this? What would be the deadlift variation they could do? Deadlifts with a trap bar. The reason is the deadlift with a trap bar is more of a hybrid between a deadlift and a squat. The sumo deadlift completely changes the biomechanics of the exercise. Totally different exercise that doesn't necessarily help your leg development more, in my opinion. Doesn't carry over as well to the real world in a lot of situations, in my personal opinion. That's all it is. But if someone was limited to one lower body exercise and the conventional deadlift isn't giving them the quad development that they want, the trap bar deadlift, the way to go, because again, it will get you more quadricep involvement while still maintaining everything that the conventional deadlift does. It'll just work your lower back a little less. So basically, I feel like your spinal erectors get a little less stimulation, but you get more quad in it. So that's the direction I would go. All right, next question. And not quite last one, so next question. How is it possible that without training, my right arm was bigger than my left one? I mean, our daily life isn't very similar to hypertrophy training, is it? Yeah, of course it is. Why would you think that you wouldn't grow from your day-to-day life? Do you honestly think that moving around doesn't stimulate muscle growth? Do you honestly think your keyboard, writing, even jerking off with your right hand doesn't make it grow if that was the only stimulation you got? Your dominant side is always going to be bigger unless you change that through very, very serious weight training. Large enough amounts of weight training that you gain 15 or 20 pounds of muscle through your body and you keep it all even. But even then, sometimes your dominant side will still be slightly bigger due to the overall workload because you tend to do things more with the dominant side of your body more. It's totally normal, perfectly normal for the right side to be more developed than the left if you are right-handed and right foot dominant. That's normal, and particularly day-to-day life, because people who don't move at all, who are in comas, you notice how their muscles just atrophy to nothing. See someone get in a wheelchair who doesn't go through physical therapy or leg exercises, their legs atrophy to almost nothing. Your day-to-day movements absolutely grow muscle. They put you at a normal, healthy amount for someone who doesn't resistance train. And obviously your dominant side gets more work, so of course it's bigger. Of course it's bigger. Hypertrophy training is not the only way to grow muscle. No one ever said it was. I hope no one gets that impression. All right, next question and last question of the week. Hey Jason, is a blood type specific diet a scam? If so, how to know what food to avoid? Blood type diets are an absolute scam. Absolute scam, zero basis in science whatsoever. No credible dietitian, registered dietitian believes in any such nonsense. It was nothing but a way to sell books, and it was a hypothesis that was come up with like 100 years ago. It was as soon as we learned that blood types existed, nutritionists of the day started speculating that people with different blood types must have come from certain parts of the world, and therefore they were predisposed to certain types of diets. However, it's not based in reality in any way. Your blood type is just a set of protein markers that are on the outside of your blood cells. I mean, they're not as special as you think they are outside of the fact that it limits what sort of blood you can transfuse from one person to another. They don't have a great deal of meaning outside of that, and even then, blood types around the world are so disparate that you can't even really fully tell what part of the world someone's ancestors came from just off of a blood type. Because every blood type exists in every part of the world, just certain regions of those continents, they're in higher percentages than others. But ultimately, blood type has less meaning than people would like to give it. It's just that because for one really important thing, blood transfusions, whether you live or die when you're giving someone else's blood, it is such a big deal that some people assume that it has a lot of other meanings to it. The truth is it doesn't. These diets are nonsense. And what type of foods to avoid? Avoid foods that you have a personal intolerance or allergy to. That's simple. And that's not based upon your blood type. That's not even based on always what your parents couldn't tolerate. Sometimes it is very, very individual. There are a ton of different factors involved. And you know what? There are some people who have zero food allergies and zero food intolerances and can eat literally everything without any of those issues. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.